So, Meredith, you have three children, and
Yes.
you've been through your share of, I'm sure, things, personally and professionally. But has there ever been anything more painful than your decision to leave ClearSky? I mean, that had to be a tough one, right?
That was definitely tough to move on from my time at Clear Sky. And it is really interesting to be here now talking to you. I feel like I've come full circle.
Yeah, full circle around. Yeah,
Yeah.
I still remember the lunch. You kept saying you had to go to lunch, and you wanted to meet me for lunch, and I was like, that's weird. And then it was actually my wife said, I think she's trying to quit, and I was like, really? And it turns out she had some good intuition. So
Yeah.
yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your journey to Clear Sky.
hmm
Like what was going on when you came into Clear Sky?
Yeah. So personally, I was going through some life changes. I had children at home. They were like late elementary, middle school age. I was going through a divorce. I was also trying to do like a career change into something more technical. I was actually looking at getting into web development at
Okay.
the time. And so that's how I found out about the position, actually through your former employee
Yeah,
who was
and
leaving.
he's your brother-in-law, is that it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. My brother in law told me about the position. I had no idea anything about A2P
Right.
messaging or business messaging or anything about the industry. So it was quite a learning
It
experience
was.
when I started.
That was 2018, right?
Yes.
And we still had our office in downtown Orlando at that point.
Yeah, it was at the Bank of America building,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
and I wasn't in charge of Clear Sky then. I was just in
No.
charge of my little area.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, who used to work for us, he was leaving, so he said, "Hey, you should interview my sister-in-law or whatever." So you came in and we interviewed you, and you didn't have any messaging experience at all. But Clear Sky, I'd say we were in a different place in 2018 than we are today.
Yeah, for sure.
So we were able to go ahead and hire you and make the offer. And I was telling someone about it today. We go through all these things now. We're much bigger now than we were then, both employees and revenue. And we go through these processes to hire people, right? And I was like, I don't know if based on Meredith's resume at the time that we would have hired Meredith today at Clear Sky. But we all agreed, and that's the Clear Sky leadership team. We all agreed that you were one of the best employees that we had,
Oh.
and and I didn't think so coming in,
See, now
right?
I need to know why that is. No, that's really flattering. I appreciate that.
No, it was, and I'll tell you exactly why it is because one of the things at Clear Sky that we always talk about in the interview process, that I always talk about, is curiosity. Like it's got to be more than, hey, this is working now and it wasn't working yesterday, or hey, this has gone up and now we're making a bunch more money, right? Or it's gone down and we're losing a bunch more money. But also when it goes up, like it's more about that. It's more about asking why. Like, why is it doing that? And don't just take it at face value. And you were very, very good at being curious.
Yeah, I would say that that's one of my defining characteristics is curiosity and asking questions. And
Right.
I
Which, by the
feel,
way, can be a little annoying.
yeah, it can rub people the wrong way, but I really value understanding how things work. And that was one of the things that really intrigued me about this industry too, was there were kind of all these behind the scenes
Right.
things going on that I really wasn't aware of before I joined Clear Sky.
Yeah,
And
it's funny. You get these little messages that say your Amazon package has arrived, and you have no idea that it's gone through 6 different people, 3 different
yeah.
vettings. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
you really don't think about the path that it took to reach your phone and
Hmm.
all of the companies and channels and paths and people that were involved in getting that message to your device. It's pretty amazing.
It really is, and so it's not just about asking questions, because we do have some people even today that ask questions, but we also have some people that ask the same question over and over again. And I think the other part of your what's known about you at Clear Sky and in the industry as a whole is that you don't ask the same question a bunch of times. Like you ask it and you retain it, and obviously that means you're very intelligent, which I don't always like to say out loud to you. But
Well, I think it's important too not to be afraid to ask questions. I think sometimes we avoid asking questions because we don't want to look like we don't know something.
Right.
But I think a lot of times what I tell myself is I'm asking the questions that other people maybe they don't feel comfortable asking. So I'm kind of helping other people's understanding as I help my own. So
Right,
yeah.
right. That's cool. So you left ClearSky. Well, first of all, with ClearSky, you came in at 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the whiskey and wireless research team did a lot of research, and we found out that you left
Yes.
in you came in 2018. You left in 21, so you were there 2 years and
Mm-hmm.
a certain amount of months or whatever. And that was a very interesting time at ClearSky. Like when you first got there in 2018, I don't think we were doing that well, and we probably weren't on a trajectory to do that well, which is why they made me president in 2019. And then you went through the sale and all of that, right?
Yeah.
You were part of it then. Yeah, and then we went to CTS, and some things were going on there too. And we were stable then and growing a little bit, but not where we started growing. So we really started growing at the end of 21. And you had left, I think, in April of 21, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, in the spring, it was kind of also during or right after COVID,
Right,
and there was
right.
just a lot of changes in the industry then.
Yep.
And I mean, I feel like I got to see a lot of that growth while I was
Yeah.
at ClearSky and just the way the industry was changing, especially with like 10DLC and
Hmm.
other,
Toll free
yes,
and
yes,
everything coming along.
right.
Yeah, and so that was really, yeah, that was just starting there. But the problem was, and the reason that I was not happy that you left, um, but I knew that we couldn't pay you what you deserved to be paid. We didn't have a role kind of for you that you needed for that growth. We were kind of at a place where we weren't doing that. Fast forward, really a year after you left, like then we could have been able to do all that, but it was too late. Then you were already at Sinch and working there, and you did a lot of toll free at Sinch, right?
Yeah, I started at Sinch on more like in more of a compliance role, and then moved into product management, initially with the toll-free messaging product there, and then expanding to include 10DLC messaging as well. So I really got to experience kind of all aspects of business messaging, at least within North America, like at my time at Sinch,
Yeah.
and got to see a lot of growth
Yeah, and
while
that
I was
company
there.
too. I mean, they
Yeah.
were they were acquiring everyone for a while.
Yeah, they were definitely acquiring a lot
Yeah.
of companies, expanding into a lot of different channels outside of messaging.
Hmm.
It was a very transformative time at Sinch for sure.
I think the funny thing is too. One of the many things I did that used to bother you was I would have you run calls when you thought that you weren't quite ready to run calls and be prepared for calls, and you would get mad at me for that.
Well, I think that when I joined ClearSky, it was definitely something new for me and kind of being thrown into the industry and also at times thrown into those calls
Yeah.
with various uh, customers. I remember one that was based in Alaska and just kind of trying to understand their needs
Right.
and their perspective on the service. And so, yeah, it was challenging at times, but I feel like I learned a lot through
Yep.
my time at ClearSky.
Yeah, you did. And
Um,
then fast forward to, I don't know, it was probably 2 years ago, maybe I went to Miami and you were there with Cinch and you were up on stage and talking about something. So,
Yeah, exactly. That's why I feel like being here, speaking to you now, it really is a full circle moment. Just thinking about I started at ClearSky knowing nothing about the industry, and now I'm here being interviewed on your podcast. It's
yeah,
pretty, yeah, it's pretty satisfying feeling.
for me
So,
too. I think it's super cool that you were able to
yeah,
come in and learn all that. And like I
yeah,
said, it speaks to you, but then, the whole industry, it's almost like a different language at times, right? I mean, there's so many words and verbiage that, you got to go, well, what does that mean? And what does that mean? And just really figure it all out. And then you stayed at Cinch for 2, 3 years?
for about 3 years, yeah, and then I moved over to Vonage about a year and a half ago.
Oh,
So,
wow. It's been
mhm,
that long, huh?
yeah.
And all of this has been remote, right?
It's all been
Well,
remote.
except ClearSky. I mean, you came in
Yeah,
there, but you live in Orlando anyway, so.
yeah, but I really feel like, with COVID, there was a shift to just kind of be more accepting of remote work in general, like
Yeah, I think
across
so.
several industries.
Hmm.
So yeah, my time at Sinch was remote, and I'm remote now with Vonage.
And so we talked a little bit before um, about you being the first female that's done the Whiskey and Wireless podcast, and I always see things obviously from my perspective because that's what most people do, and you try to think about another perspective. And so you having 3 kids at home, you talked about you had gone through a divorce or whatever, and so you were basically a single mom for a while,
Yeah.
trying to raise these kids and start a new career. I mean that had to be challenging a lot.
Yeah, it was challenging. One of the things that drew me to Vonage actually was my former um, supervisor there. Her name's Nikki Shanavaz, and I think Vonage does a really great job of supporting women within the industry. And so I had the opportunity to work with her, work with other women at Vonage that were in the telecom space, and it is challenging at times. But I do feel like there is a kind of growing group of women that are supporting each other and just kind of looking to forward our careers
Yeah.
in telecom.
Yeah, in the messaging space. So a lot of time I spend at CCA, right? And CCA is very male dominated, although it's getting better, I guess. Not probably as quick as some people would like, but it's getting better. But I thought messaging was a lot more diverse than the CCA to begin with. So I think our space is more diverse
Yeah.
and becoming even more so. So
Yeah.
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 In Vegas this time, there's the Women in Wireless dinner on Monday night.
Yes. So I've participated in that. This will be my 3rd or 4th year.
Oh, you're doing it this year too?
Yes.
I-
Yeah. And so I know it started off as like a fairly small group of maybe like a dozen women, and it's grown since then. And actually, Shannon Donahue, she's now at Vonage. She is, I think, the director of carrier management at Vonage, but she is really the one that started it, and it's just grown since then.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to take part in that, and just like I said, support other women
Yep.
in their career.
So Erica from ClearSky will be there, and
Yeah.
and ClearSky actually is one of the sponsors of the Women in
Okay.
Wireless dinner this
Oh,
year.
nice.
Yeah,
All right. I
yeah.
didn't.
Stephanie
didn't
from
know that.
Bandwidth, if you know her. Yeah,
Yes.
so she reached out, and we wanted to sponsor that dinner because we think it's important, and Erica's been a big part of what we do as well.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's great to see it grown. Like, so now there's several sponsors, and
Yeah.
like I said, it was originally just like an organic group
Right,
of women
just-
that were getting together to support each other.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool. And so remote work probably helps you though, right? As far as the family life goes, because it's a little bit easier. I mean, I'm part of 2 or 3 carpools now, and I'm work from home, and I'm always like, hey, you guys know, like I am working, like I just can't. My kids will call me and be like, can you pick me up early? I'm
Yeah.
like, no, like I have a job. I know I'm home all the time, but I'm sure you go through that too, John.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really fortunate to have a job that's flexible, to be able to work remotely. My kids are a little bit older now, so they're a little bit more self-sufficient, but still, if something does come up, I have the flexibility to be there for them, or help them or pick them up from school
Right,
or
yeah.
whatever. So I definitely feel very fortunate to be in that position, and just to have that availability for my kids.
And how does the demands of travel? I mean, do you travel a lot with your job? Because I know, obviously, me, I'm on the road
Yeah.
a lot, and not as much, maybe. Well, actually, it's kind of the pendulum's swinging back to being on the road a lot, as I'm
Yeah.
reminded by my wife all the time.
I would say I travel about once a quarter.
Okay,
and,
that's not too bad.
their dad is very supportive. He travels a lot for work too, so we're pretty good partners as far as supporting each other if we have to travel for work, and we make it work. So yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So the industry, we talked a little bit about changes after COVID, right? And there were a lot. And then ClearSky's trajectory after that was very high, right? I mean, we've done really good things, but messaging as a whole and that ecosystem has really grown a lot. So, what have you seen from that, and then where do you think it's going, I guess, is the big question.
Yeah, I would definitely say there's been a lot of changes, especially related to 10DLC within the North American messaging space, and just the evolution of that channel and the adoption of it. And then also I've seen a lot of renewed focus on fraud,
Right.
which is actually what I'm focusing on now at Vonage. It's just the importance of fraud prevention and really maintaining the trust between the consumers and the brands to keep business messaging a trusted channel.
Right. And like you said, from both sides, right? So it's
Yeah.
the subscriber, consumer doesn't need to get a bunch of text messages that are fraud and UPS messages, whatever. There's always these messages that you get that are just fraud,
Yeah.
right? And then, but then from the business side, they get the AIT and a bunch of other things where now they're having to pay extra for messages that really aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's definitely, I would say, a renewed focus. I mean, I think there's always been a focus on that, right? Like preventing fraud or deception or whatever. But I do think that there's even more of a need for that now as bad actors have become more sophisticated,
Yep.
probably with AI and just, there's more threat now. So I think that there is even more work to be done to kind of preserve what has been built as far as business messaging is
Yeah, and
concerned.
some I think in the EU, and I don't know this to be sure, but I saw a headline somewhere. The last couple of weeks have been pretty busy, but it was something about some financial institutions are not even sending OTP through A to P anymore. They're doing other things, right, for getting into your account and doing all that. So network APIs, and
Yeah.
then of course RCS is come on board. So are you guys looking into some of that stuff?
Yeah, I know Vonage definitely is really focused on network APIs and the opportunity that has, especially when it comes to authentication and verification. And then you have RCS and the kind of the branded nature of that,
Right.
like the trusted nature of the
Hmm.
RCS agent. So there's definitely a focus on those aspects of kind of a trusted sender.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've learned more about network APIs and RCS over the
Yeah.
last 6 months or a year than I ever thought I would. So it's been, that is the thing about the industry. Once you know something, and even if you become a quote unquote expert in it, the industry is going to move, right? We
Yeah.
talk about technology giveth and taketh away, right? So
'Cause
there's always some new thing.
I think ClearSky, you were partnering with Shush, right?
Yeah.
With
Look at you.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we are. We're doing, we have a network API platform in our Denver data center and
yeah,
connected to a bunch of carriers and turning all that on. So, we'll be
yeah,
talking to Vonage and others about that, especially at Mobile World Congress coming up here in October. So,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, it has been good. And then RCS, same thing. We're turning our customers on for RCS. And then that comes
That's got
RBM
to be
with
an
it.
interesting conversation when you're trying to explain RCS to some of your carriers. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of them don't know what A to P is, and
yeah,
I don't mean that in a bad way. They just don't have a messaging component inside the carrier network, right? They're
right,
they're out building towers and doing all the stuff that they do, and they don't always know what the messaging trends are.
right.
So yeah, but just like anything else, they learn it because their subscribers call them, and the subscribers want RCS, right? Because when you're texting with your friends, you can always tell that guy that now you can't do whatever because someone has a Google phone or Android and someone has an Apple, and they're not compatible. But now with RCS, even P2P becomes compatible, and subscribers know
Yeah.
that. So
And
they're
I'm getting less, I have an Android, so I'm getting less flack from my iPhone
yeah.
user friends.
You were getting it though, weren't
Oh,
you?
yeah, I was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
They're
green
always like,
bubble or
you
the
ruin
blue
our
bubble.
group chats. And it's like,
Right.
maybe
Right.
I don't, maybe it's working a little bit more.
Maybe I want to ruin your group chat. Is that
Yeah.
what you're trying to say?
Yeah, maybe not. Now I'm not doing it unintentionally,
Right.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. So we definitely have seen that, and ClearSky's bringing that, and learning about agents and working with Google, and it adds to my travel because now Google's the cool thing is though, and you'll see this. You have one. Seth is out. The oldest is out, right? Do you have other kids out of the house, or are they still in the house?
Yeah, so my oldest son, Seth, he's in college right now. He's in his last year of college,
Right.
moved out of the house. My daughter She's in college as well, but she does still live with me.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
then my youngest is at home as well.
Yeah. So, we just dropped Hannah off at college in Fordham in New York.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and then I have two older boys that live in New York City. So now, 7 years ago, I had never been to New York, and now I have three kids that live in New York. It's the craziest thing.
Okay.
But Google's not headquarters, but one of Google's big offices is in New York City. So
Yeah.
I think in a couple of weeks they're doing the RCS World Tour, and it stops at New York City. So I get to go up there for that, learn about RCS, but also I get to, get a couple kid dinners in
Yeah.
and experience that. So.
Yeah, I feel like you travel around a lot. You're always in the Bahamas or something.
Always for work, as I always say. I don't
you
dig
manage
ditches,
to
but
do it to fit it in for work, but you
Yeah.
get to go to a lot of interesting places.
Yeah, someone told me that the other day. They were like, we were at a baseball game or a football game, and I was saying how I had to travel. And he goes, I know you travel for work. He said, but it always seems like you travel to cool places. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it just kind of works out that way. They don't do a lot of conventions in Guyman, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
they're
that's
in
true.
Rome or in Barcelona or New York or Vegas, which, is not. Vegas used to be cool back in the day. And then, and it sounds however it sounds, but I've been there so many times that I just do not like to go there anymore. So,
Yeah,
and
well,
I've changed a little.
yeah.
So Vegas isn't as fun for me as it used to be.
I will say that I'm typically ready to head home after MWC Vegas. Like when
Right.
it's done, I'm ready for it to wrap up and head home. I'm like, this is enough Vegas.
Yeah, and you'll be
for
there
me.
this year too, and you're just like me the last couple of years. Did you go last year?
Yes.
And then did you stay or did you come back because of the hurricane?
I stayed, and then it turned out that my flight was canceled. So I was a little stuck in Vegas.
Yeah, I remember. Okay.
So I rode out the hurricane in Vegas, and like my whole family was in Orlando. And
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
at a nice hotel in Vegas. I felt a little guilty about
Yeah,
that.
so it's been a couple of years that's happened, and I
Yeah.
remember now that I saw you at the MEF party in Vegas last year, and I was going home and you were staying. And
Yeah.
because I was in Vegas for like 3 hours, and then
Yeah, I think you probably made the smart decision to leave, and I
Right, yeah.
decided to take
Maybe.
my chances, and then
well, it ended
got
up
stuck.
being not too much of anything, but it is a stressful time for
Yeah.
everybody when you're in Florida and there's a hurricane coming. You never know, right?
Right.
And we've
right.
all been through that one that was bad, and then we've been through a bunch where a chair gets knocked over or something
Yeah.
like that. So you never know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go to conventions, what do you have a memory of like your first convention that you went to? Because you didn't go to any, I don't believe, when you were at ClearSky. So that had to be at Sinch, right?
My first convention was MWC in Los Angeles.
Oh.
So before they moved it back to Vegas, and it was right after COVID. So it was
21, probably 22, something like that.
yeah, 2022, I believe. But it was I think a smaller convention, so it
Right.
was
It took a while to ramp up. After
yeah, I
COVID.
think just to recover from the impact that COVID had on those types of gatherings. That was my first experience, though, as far as a convention in the industry, and it was good.
Now you've been to a bunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been to a bunch.
I like it. And so, so do you ever think that A2P is going to be completely gone, and be replaced by things like network APIs and RCS, or is there always going to be a role for A2P in the messaging space?
That's a good question. I don't see A2P messaging going away. It's definitely evolving. RCS, I feel like that's just another evolution of
Yeah, I mean,
A2P messaging. I think consumers like getting, having that access to the brands that they trust on their phone. And, we're much more likely to look at our messaging app than like our
for sure.
email app.
Yeah.
So I don't see it going away, but it's definitely constantly evolving, just how we interact with it.
And it's such a big part of kind of our daily lives, right?
Yeah.
Because we always have the phone and we're always looking
Yeah.
at it, sometimes too much. Right.
And I will say, too, that I think that we sometimes underestimate the impact that the business messaging channel has on our daily lives. I remember when I was at ClearSky, there
Probably
was
a good memory right
yes,
here.
a good
Yeah,
memory
yeah,
from Clear
yeah.
Sky.
I knew it.
But there was actually, I think I remember somehow getting in touch with a pharmacist in Oklahoma that somehow was, I don't even remember how they ended up reaching out to Clear Sky, but basically this pharmacist was having trouble getting reminder notification,
Right.
prescription refill
Prescription reminder.
reminders
Yeah.
to his patients. It was like Walmart pharmacy.
Right.
And I remember him reaching out and he was just really desperate because those types of messages had like a real impact on his
Right.
customers,
They
like
were
whether
saving lives. I always say, Clear
yeah,
Sky's saving lives, man. We're out there getting
yeah,
it done one short code at a
right.
time.
So
Yeah.
I remember, just kind of working with him and the aggregator and the brand to
Yeah.
get those messages delivered, and it seems like such a small thing, but for that pharmacist in his community, like
Right.
that made a significant difference
And
in like the health outcomes
right, and that's
there.
in the beginning it was in the beginning when the Earth was cool. Um, in the beginning, it was Ryan Seacrest, right? And he was on American
Yeah.
Idol, and he was saying, "Hey, vote for Kelly Clarkson," right? And then my regional carriers would not be able to vote, and then someone next to them with an AT&T phone was able to vote, and so they wanted to access to short code so that could happen, right? And they could stay competitive with the tier ones. But now, it's become, and back then the brands were okay with 98% of coverage in the United States or 96% or whatever it is through the tier ones, right? But now, because of prescriptions and because of appointments and because of package deliveries and O2P, two-factor authentication now they need 100%.
Right.
And so that's really where ClearSky and others that shall not be named, but ClearSky and others, we really became more important because we're filling in those gaps of the United States
Yeah,
subscriber coverage.
there's more critical services, I guess you could say, that rely on messaging where having the long tail is really important. It's not so much about the
old long tail. That's right.
yeah, the long tail.
I
Yeah.
forgot that's what we're called.
Yeah. But having that coverage is important even though it's like it's a smaller group, it's still important, especially for certain services that you have that reach.
That's right.
Yeah.
Say that again. It's very important that we have that reach.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it is. And OTT providers, which is a big part of what we do as well. And so
Yeah.
that's, I was on the phone before this trying to deal with some friends of ours in the industry and trying to get some OTT things working that I'll
That's
talk
always
to
a
you about.
challenge.
Yeah, you might be able to actually help me with it.
Yes.
And so just with your knowledge of everything, that's good. It's a
Yeah.
good thing you're here.
Yeah.
So favorite show. Do you have a favorite show that you've been to or that you look forward to?
I mean, I always like the MEF Leadership Forum. I feel like it's a more intimate group, and it's really focused, at least for me personally, on topics that I find really relevant, messaging or fraud, prevention, or just kind of RCS, the way that the business messaging industry specifically is changing. So I've always really enjoyed those forums. Yeah.
Yeah, I think me too. I forget our mutual friend Stefan. He told me about MEF whenever it was, a few years back, and several years probably now. And I remember going to one in Miami, and like you said, there wasn't a lot of people there, but everybody that was there was super important to our lives at ClearSky and messaging. So it was like, wow, this guy's
Yeah.
here and this guy's here and I couldn't believe it, So now I think all of those, although they have a lot, but all of their
There are a
meetings
lot, yeah.
that are in the area, right?
Right.
So we'll go to the one in Vegas. I'm on the fence about going to the one in Hawaii. I might go. But then we're obviously in Barcelona and then at ITW.
You're on the fence about going to Hawaii.
I know it sounds pretentious, I guess, to say that, but we've been and from Orlando, man, that's a heck of a flight. And
Yeah.
And I'm 112 years old nowadays, so being on a flight for 10 hours is not my idea of a good time.
Even if it's Hawaii.
Even if it's Hawaii, because you get out and then, it's pretty.
Yeah.
But like, they're like, oh, you should
Okay.
see, you go to some place and they're like, look at this plant. I'm like, yeah, that's in my backyard. Like,
Okay.
I don't, I don't
Maybe
care.
stick to the one in Miami then.
Yeah,
That's
stick to,
doable.
or I can go to the Bahamas or one of those other
Yeah.
places on the other side. Bahamas is a 47-minute flight, and
Yeah.
that's pretty too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I got to get more people on the West Coast, and we just this time. We've hired a couple other people. Chip D'Amato, used to run Inland Cellular, and now he's working for ClearSky, and so he's going to his first MEF. And I'm like, it's a little different than CCA, so it's a little more. I don't know. CCA is great too because you know everybody there, or we know everybody there, and so that's great. MEF, we know a lot of people, but it's just a different kind of. I guess vibe. I don't know if
Yeah.
my age I'm allowed to say vibe, but yeah, but it's just a different
You're allowed.
feel.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's just a different feel there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because you're talking about just the changes that I've experienced since I was at ClearSky. I know ClearSky has changed quite a bit. Like, what are some of the changes that you've experienced? Like,
Yeah. So, we just it was funny. So I took over in 2019, and then we sold to private equity in 2020,
yeah,
and then they put us together with CTS in 2020 again, November of 2020, and someone came in and was running ClearSky. That was we knew that selling it. I knew that someone was going to come in and run it, and then they ended up leaving around the same time you did, not because you did, but around the same time you did.
Okay.
And life was great. And then we were making good money, or I was making good money. ClearSky was pretty flat, kind of going up a little bit, but and then we just really made changes as far as working more with the carriers and relying less on carrier money and more on
The
aggregator and
aggregators,
messaging money, because the aggregators are getting the pass through from the brands. And so let's focus on reach. Let's focus on getting as many subscribers as we can, and we won't worry about charging the carriers or making money on the carriers. We'll rev share with the carriers and make the money from the aggregators, which seems pretty easy, but no one was doing that in the regional space. And since then, yeah, we break record after record. So it's I was looking back at what we did on September, whatever day it was, 29th of 21. I looked at the number of messages we did then and the number of messages we did this year in 25, and it's 4 times higher on a daily basis. So it's great.
Does that represent new carriers you've brought on, or just do you see that as just a growth of the channel?
It's both. So we look at subscribers, carriers, and say, how many subscribers do you have? Then we know how many A to P messages they have. And what would you guess the number of messages per subscriber, number of A to P messages per subscriber per month? What would you say that is?
Was my guess.
Yeah.
Probably I would say 100 or so.
It's 50.
50.
50 to 70. We have
Okay.
some carriers that do 70, but I thought that was a huge number. Like, if you would ask me
I'm
that,
just thinking about my messaging inbox, so because I have a lot of messages.
Yeah. No, it was we have a lot of carriers with 70. I use 50 as a conservative number when I go talk to subscribers, because we have some. When I go talk to carriers and trying to tell them what kind of revenue they should expect, we use that 50 mark because it's conservative. But yeah, we have several carriers that are 70, 75. And man, you just think about that. Like, in 1 month, that's how many A to P messages each subscriber on that network gets. That just seems like a lot to me, but it speaks to, how important it is, and then all the things that go into that along the way. So.
And do you have a lot of carriers that are participating in 10DLC? Like, how is that?
Going back to your 10DLC. Yeah, we do. We work with, I'll say cryptically, because we love all of our aggregators. But we work with one of the largest 10DLC providers, and a bunch of great people. It's Twilio, obviously. We have a lot of good relationships, and Twilio is one that we have a direct connection with, and we've had just good relations with them, back in the ZipWhip days and the Twilio days, and now they're combined. So all of those guys have just been really great for us, and really great to do business with. And so, yeah, getting 10DLC off of the P2P and into the A2P channel where it should be is one of the value adds that ClearSky had for its carriers, and really changed the dynamic a lot.
Yeah.
Because now we're able to rev share with people a lot more and deliver that down the right channel and make sure that what's being delivered is proper.
Yeah, because when I joined ClearSky, like 10DLC wasn't really even a thing. It was just on the horizon.
And even then, that was all going down the P2P channel, which we weren't a part of. And then they got it off the tier ones P2P, but not the regional carriers, because the regional carriers can't do firewalls and all that stuff. So it really took us talking in the industry a lot, going to these conventions where everyone goes, man, you get to go to Vegas and you get to go here, but we really are talking about things that need to change in the industry. And I told Chip, at the MEF meetup, so much gets done at that bar that it really is kind of crazy.
It's about the networking events.
It really is.
Not really the actual sessions.
Right. That's exactly
it.
So I said we'll get there and we'll go to the sessions and we'll do all that. But that MEF meetup on Tuesday night, I think it is this year, or Tuesday night is going to be extremely important.
So. And then you said you're expanding into RCS. Are you supporting carriers with RCS?
Yes.
How is that working? Like, how is that going?
Man, I'm being interviewed. It's Whiskey and Wireless by Meredith. I love it. We're working with Google, and so we have a relationship with Google, and we're trying to figure that out. And we already have one carrier that's very close. We're working with Google and Apple, and we're ClearSky, so. We're not as big as Google and Apple right now, so we're kind of at the mercy of. We're no Vonage, so we're kind of at the mercy of. And so, we have our first test bundle from Apple going to a carrier on Monday, and then we're already integrated with Google, and
exciting.
So we should have our first carrier up on Android and Apple here very soon.
Okay.
And then once that happens,
we'll see a ClearSky carrier in the Google console.
You'll see. We don't know. You'll either see ClearSky or a bunch of carriers. We don't know yet.
Okay.
We just talked about that yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
So all that's going to get figured out in the next little bit. So
it's exciting.
It's exciting times.
Yeah.
But yeah. So thanks for coming by, and I know it was a tough ride for you. We usually have to pay someone to fly in, and
it was a tough 15-minute drive. It was raining a little bit, so
it was rainy. It was tough for you, wasn't it? Yeah.
But I braved the elements.
Way to go! Way to get it done. And then I'll probably see you in Vegas here in a little bit.
Yes.
And it's going to be very exciting. So.
And I'll see Erica at the Women in Telecom dinner.
Women in Wireless.
Yes.
Is it Women in Telecom or Women in Wireless? I should know this.
I think it's Women in Telecom.
I actually do think it is. Yes, I think it's Women in Telecom.
Yes.
So it'll be awesome. Okay. And anytime you want to come roam the halls of ClearSky, even though we really don't have an office, but this is kind of our new office. You saw the studio out there, right?
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Very nice.
Yeah. So you can come on over whenever you want.
Okay.
So, thanks for coming by.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. See you.